Well, you know what? Darn it. I didn't know this was a joint press conference with the Prime Minister of Japan, Shinzo Abe-san. I have no idea. So I don't know when we're going to jip this. I don't want to get the joint stuff. With the Japanese guy speaking and the translator and the president respond. I want to wait till I get to the reporter questions. Because you know as well as I do, the reporters are not going to ask the Japanese Prime Minister a single question. The American reporters are not going to do that.
Live from the Southern Command in sunny South Florida, it's Open Line Friday.
You know what the first question is going to be? Mr. President, are you considering resigning? Mr. President, is it really worth it? Mr. President, you think you'll be impeached? Because what you did with your daughter and Nordstrom, Mr. President. How are you doing, folks? It's great to have you here. Rush Limbaugh, the EIB Network and the Limbaugh Institute for Advanced Conservative Studies. Telephone number if you want to be with us, 800-282-2882, and the email address, lrushbo@eibnet.us. So let me amend what I said before I knew that it was a joint press conference with the Prime Minister from Japan. We are going to jip it, but I will be the judge as to when we jip it, because I probably am not going to spend much time with the joint aspect of this. But when they go to questions, when the two Prime Minister, well, the Prime Minister and the President have concluded their statements, then we'll jip the questions. I don't know why I didn't know. I just looked at the standard press conference. I forgot the Japanese Prime Minister was in town. My bad. Now, the last caller that we had wanted to know what happens the next time regarding if there's another executive order and if there is a rewrite, what happens next, what will the left do, and what if we don't submit a new one and just ride this out? Folks, that could be months. When you start talking about the Supreme Court, it could be months. I'm looking for a soundbite here with Dershowitz, and I hope I'm not confusing it with something I had yesterday. Yeah, let's go to... let's 13, 14, and 15. Let's start here with Jeffrey Toobin. Wait, do I want to say what? Hang on, just a second. See this Jeffrey Lord bit with it. Yeah, give me number 9. We're going to do number 9, and then we're going to do 8 and 9. Then we'll jump to 13. Jeffrey Lord was on CNN, Anderson Cooper, last night, and talking about the Supreme Court, the Ninth Circuit ruling. And don't worry, I know they've started. We'll jip this thing. We won't miss anything, the press conference. Here's Jeffrey Lord making an argument about how Trump could proceed here after the Ninth Circus continued to stay on his executive order.
Newt Gingrich, when he was running for president in 2011, talking about the Hamdan versus Rumsfeld case involving Guantanamo and the rights of prisoners. And Speaker Gingrich said, I would instruct the national security officials in the Gingrich administration to ignore the recent decisions of the Supreme Court on national security matters, and I would interpose the presidency in saying, as the commander-in-chief, we will not enforce this. This is called departmentalism. And this goes back to Thomas Jefferson, who wrote in 1819, each department of the national government is truly independent of the others and has an equal right to decide for itself the meaning of the Constitution and the cases submitted to its action.
Okay, were you following that? Now, this is an admitted Trump supporter, Jeffrey Lord, writes the American Spectator, and he's citing actual and true American history. He's reciting what Jefferson wrote, and he is quoting Newt Gingrich. Now, he's talking to Jeffrey Toobin. He's a legal analyst at CNN. As far as these people are concerned, there is no co-equal branch business. The judiciary runs this country. Yes, there's separation of powers. But whenever a court speaks, whether they are condemning the constitutionality of a law from Congress or whether they are condemning a presidential action, the Supreme Court is it. The Supreme Court is the last word. Here comes Jeffrey Lord. No. Thomas Jefferson's up to each branch to decide how in the world they are going to define the Constitution, separation of powers, and he quoted Gingrich as saying, look, matters of national security, a court can go to hell. I'm going to ignore what the court gets wrong because they don't have all the information I have, and I'm going to implement what I think best. Well, now, you can imagine the reaction this got on CNN.
God's sake, Jeff, that is ridiculous. Well, the idea that the President of the United States can ignore judgments of the court. You know, Andrew Jackson did it regarding the Cherokee Indians. Abraham Lincoln did it during the Civil War, which is a little different from what's going on now.
Well, according to all my liberal friends, we're in a Civil War.
The idea that a president, I mean, you know, much credit to Donald Trump, frankly, for saying, see you in court, rather than saying, I'm ignoring the court. Newt Gingrich's lunacy is not something that anyone should look up to.
Wait a minute. Kudos to Donald Trump. Much credit to Donald Trump for saying, see you in court. You know, it's fascinating. Andrew Jackson, by the way, Lincoln did more than what Jeffrey Lord is attributing to him. And Abraham Lincoln actually put a sitting member of Congress in jail. He sent the military around to roust the guy up, put him in jail. Roger Taney was the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, and he gave a ruling that Lincoln didn't like on habeas corpus, and he almost put Taney in jail. The fact it was a civil war, you know, folks, I got to tell you something. I don't think we're that far from a civil war in this country right now. I'm not talking about armed conflict North versus South, but we have a divide in this country that is in no way going to be bridged. It isn't going to be bridged by compromise. It's not going to be bridged by walking across the aisle and getting along with people. And it's not going to be bridged by persuading people to agree with us and vice versa. The only way this is ever going to end is when one side gets defeated, politically defeated, and becomes a demonstrable minority. That's the only way any of this is going to end. The left does not want this to end. This is normalcy for the left. You must understand this. This is what they want life in America to be, day in and day out. Remember, they are victims. They are not happy. As victims, it is impossible to be happy. It's impossible to be content. They think there are no reasons to be happy. Even when Obama was winning and he was in the White House, they were still livid and angry every day over what? The fact that there was opposition to Obama. They weren't even happy when he won. They would not have been happy had Hillary won because there would have been opposition, and they can't stand opposition. They don't think opposition is warranted or justified. So there is no common ground between the divide, the divisions in this country. In that sense, there already is a civil war. I'm not talking about armed conflict. I'm talking about a battle. How does it end? Are you going to persuade the libs in your neighborhood? You think they're going to persuade you? It isn't going to happen. Not en masse. I mean, you might randomly influence somebody at the Chamber of Commerce, at the Rotary Club, or wherever, but en masse, it isn't going to happen. And they sure as hell, folks, are not going to persuade me. There is no way under the sun that I ever, it being of conscious, sound mind and body, ever agree with liberalism about much anything. It isn't going to happen. And I'm not alone in that. So what is the solution to this? We just go on like this? Because that's what's going to happen. The left, this is what energizes them. This is what gives them their meaning in life. This is what gives them a reason to get up every day. As long as somebody else is paying them, as long as somebody's providing them food stamps, as long as somebody's giving them health care, as long as they do not have to work in order to live, this is how they want to conduct their day. Causing trouble, raising hell, opposing everything they resent that is characterized or classified as normal. They are enraged and angry throughout the day and night, and they have been my entire life. It's intensified with every year of my life. This is what life in America is going to be until one side loses and concedes and surrenders. Now, you tell me which side's it going to be. And you look at the onslaught and you look at every direction they are coming at us from. Every issue that they supposedly have is nothing more than a trick and a disguised effort to advance their agenda. I don't care if it's judicial activism, it's climate change, civil rights, equal pro-life abortion, pro-choice, what have you, funding plan. It's all about advancing their agenda and eliminating us. It's not really about climate change. They succeed in making their brain-dead rank and file think that the world will not be habitable in 30 years. But it's a crock. You tell me where the agreement's going to be. You tell me where the compromise is going to be. They're not going to stop until they destroy the Catholic Church. They're not going to stop until the Catholic Church becomes pro-choice. You think that's ever going to happen? You think the Catholic Church will ever sanction gay marriage with openly gay priests and lesbian nuns? You think they'll openly sanction? Because they're not going to stop until they get that, one way or the other. Do you think that'll ever happen? We have the most socialist pope that we've had in our lifetimes right now. The Catholic Church is closer to this precipice, my observation, than it's been in a long time. But to say that the very things that define Catholicism and Christianity, they're all under assault. Every damned institution in the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, the Cub Scouts, the Candy Stripers, for crying, nothing's safe. How does this get resolved? So here you have Jeffrey Lord pointing out, well, you know, the president can just ignore it. Jeffrey, don't be silly. You idiot. You stupid, dumb idiot. That's arrogant, condescending attitude they bring to this stuff. When, in fact, American history is replete. How come the judiciary gets to ignore him? How come the judiciary gets to tell the president to go to hell, but when the president tells the judiciary to go to hell, somehow we're all going to hell? The judiciary can do whatever they want as far as Jeffrey Toobin's concerned, as far as every liberal is concerned. Any liberal court to tell anybody whatever is perfectly fine, and you can't argue with it, and you can't oppose it, and let a president say, I don't believe him. I'm not gonna obey. To hell with, and you would think it'd be the end of civilization. So how does this resolve itself, my good friends? Here's more Jeffrey Toobin. And he's still talking to Jeff Lord about. Just play the bite. I don't know what. I know it works.
It's a complete repudiation of the Trump administration's position on this case, and it is also now 4 judges who have reviewed this, 2 George W. Bush appointees, 2 Democratic appointees, and all 4 have ruled against. The Trump administration now has 2 options. One is go to what's called an en banc, more judges on the Ninth Circuit. It would be 11 judges to hear the case. Or go directly to the Supreme Court to challenge this stay.
That's not going to happen until Gorsuch is confirmed. And that's not going to be the smooth sailing everybody's telling you it is. He may end up being confirmed, but it's not going to be the smooth. They're just telling them, oh, yeah, this guy's so brilliant. Oh, he is. There's no way we can't stand in the way of this guy. You wait. Can't stand in the way of this guy. They stand in the way of everything. Now, here's Dershowitz. Dershowitz, law professor emeritus, well-known left-wing legal scholar from Hartford, also on Anderson Cooper last night. Question, Professor Dershowitz, you said there's actually a third option the president has here.
Third option is for the president to realize he's not going to win on this stay issue. He may win 3 months from now, 4 months from now, but he has said on camera that this decision poses a grave threat to the national security of the United States. So his option is very simple. Withdraw the current order that is subject to the stay, write a new order with the help of his new attorney general, national security people, that will survive constitutional attack.
Very interesting. Is that possible? Is there a way to survive? Because it's not constitutional attack. It is liberal attack. This is what's happening. Oh, I know it looks like it's a constitutional attack because of the way the judges talk and the way the judges write. And I know, but Rush, how can it be liberalism when two of these judges are George W. Bush? It's establishment versus outsider. Liberal versus conservative, you name it. Trump is the object of scorn, and it doesn't. He could write the perfect executive order. You think these guys have already ignored the law once? They've ignored that statute, which is as crystal clear as 2 + 2 = 4. They've ignored that to stay this executive order. You think they won't just find another reason and be able to couch it in some legal mumbo-jumbo to suggest that it's unconstitutional? Of course they will. One more Dershowitz, and we have to go to the timeout. He continued and concluded, actually, with this.
There's another way that he can do it, too. He can leave this order in effect, leave it subject to a stay, and then issue a new order which supplements the order. That way he protects his ego. He doesn't have to say I was wrong. He just says, look, there's a stay in effect. I'm now going to issue a new order, and that new order applies only to A, B, C.
Now, there are areas here that gave it trouble. I mean, issuing this blanket ban on entry to people that had already passed muster and were green card holders. And I knew when that was, I mean, he's well within his rights to do it, but that was going to present problems from the get-go. And they did this with no advance warning so as to prevent what's happening now. What's happening now is that we're being flooded by refugees from these 7 countries, and even Bashar al-Assad, the evil Sorin from Syria, is saying, I know some terrorists from here are getting into the United States now. There have to be. The law of averages. Some of the people you're letting in are terrorists. I have no doubt. No doubt whatsoever. But that's okay, folks. That's okay, because we have to stop Trump and the Republicans. That's...